Good evening, traveler. Before the story begins, take a deep breath. In through your nose and out through your mouth. Tell me, where are you listening from tonight? From a warm room, lights low, the air still and kind? Or from a city window where rain slides down the glass? Or from somewhere quiet where the night hums softly like a lullaby? Wherever you are, I'm glad you're here. There, beyond the hum of the world you know, stands something vast, silent, and full of secrets, the Great Pyramid of Giza. This isn't a story of kings and treasures, nor of tombs or curses. It is a story of whispers, the kind that live inside stone, the kind that carry through centuries when no one is listening but the night. A story to quiet your mind, to slow your thoughts, and to help you rest in the company of something timeless. So close your eyes and imagine the desert after sunset. The sand still glows faintly from the day's heat, breathing out warmth into the cool air. The horizon is a line of dark violet, and the stars begin to appear. Slow at first, then all at once, bright and infinite. A soft wind moves across the dunes, shaping their curves, making them sigh. And there, rising out of the earth like a mountain carved by patience itself, stands the Great Pyramid. Its stones shimmer under the moonlight, pale gold, silver, and shadow. From afar, it looks still, but if you stand close enough, you can hear it breathing. Not with air, but with time. Every block holds the memory of hands that lifted it, voices that sang to keep rhythm, hearts that believed they were building something eternal. And perhaps they were. Our story begins with a boy named Kari, many centuries ago. Not a prince or a priest, but a stoneworker's son. He lived in a small mud brick house near the banks of the Nile, where the river curved gently toward Giza. Each morning, he would watch the sunlight catch the tip of the pyramid, turning it to fire. He used to wonder how such a thing could exist, how humans could touch the heavens with stone. His father worked among the builders, shaping limestone blocks with bronze tools, chanting under his breath to keep the rhythm. Every evening, when he came home covered in dust, Kari would run to greet him. "Father," he'd ask, "do the walls speak?" His father would laugh, "Only if you listen for a very long time." But Kari did listen. He would lie awake at night, the sounds of frogs and water from the river outside, and imagine that the pyramid was talking to the stars. He dreamed that it told them everything it had seen, every hand, every breath, every heartbeat. One day, his father brought him to the construction site. The air was filled with the rhythm of hammers and ropes, the call of men pulling, the chant of overseers keeping time. Kari stared up. The pyramid was already immense, its sides gleaming under the sun like the wings of a god. When the workers rested, he wandered close to the base, where the air was cooler. He pressed his small ear against one of the stones. And there, just faintly, he heard it. A low hum, soft and steady, deep as the river's pulse. He held his breath, listening. It wasn't words exactly, but it felt alive, as though the stone itself remembered the music of those who had placed it there. That night, when he told his father, the man smiled. "You heard the breath of the pyramid," he said. "Every stone hums when the wind passes through its heart." But Kari believed there was more. He began to visit often, always placing his ear against a different wall, listening for what others ignored. Over time, he began to hear patterns, whispers like waves, rising and falling, telling stories that no one else could hear. Stories of the river, of the stars, of the people who sang to the stones so they would never forget their names. Years passed, and the Great Pyramid was completed. The workers went home. The desert grew quiet again. But Kari kept returning, even as he grew older, even when his hair began to fade like the limestone under the sun. He became the caretaker of silence. At night, when the wind moved through the empty corridors, he would walk inside with an oil lamp, its flame trembling in the dark, and whisper back to the walls. Sometimes he would sit in the king's chamber, where the air felt thick and ancient. He would close his eyes and let the silence wash over him. If he waited long enough, he could feel vibrations in the stone, like the slow heartbeat of the earth itself. And in those moments, he knew he wasn't alone. He once wrote, in lines carved softly into a piece of clay, "Stone remembers what man forgets, and what stone forgets, the stars will remember." Now, traveler, let your imagination drift inside those halls. The air is cool and still. Your footsteps echo softly, each sound stretching far away and returning gentler than before. The torchlight flickers along the narrow passages, orange against the pale limestone. Sometimes you think you hear a sigh, but it's only the air shifting. Or maybe something older. Each wall glows faintly, as if lit from within. You can almost see the shadows of those who built it, the sweep of their arms, the strength in their backs, the quiet pride in their eyes. They are gone, but their rhythm remains. Somewhere deep inside, in a chamber untouched by light for centuries, lies a single block of stone that hums more deeply than the rest. If you listen closely, you might hear it say, "We were built not to trap death, but to hold light." The pyramid, you see, was never silent. It has always spoken. Only now it whispers through wind and memory, through those who still come to stand in its shadow and feel small in the best possible way. Centuries later, long after Kari's footprints had turned to dust, travelers from faraway lands began to visit the Great Pyramid. One of them was Amira, a young archaeologist with a heart full of questions and a notebook always at hand. She had studied blueprints and measurements, theories and myths, but when she first stood before the real thing, all her knowledge fell quiet. The sheer scale of it took her breath away. It was as if time itself had paused to let her listen. On her second night in Giza, unable to sleep, she slipped away from her camp. The moon was high, the sand cool. She walked barefoot across the desert until she reached the pyramid's base. The stone was cold against her fingertips. She closed her eyes and placed her ear against the wall. At first, she heard only the wind. Then, faintly, a deep, rhythmic vibration. Her heartbeat slowed to match it. A low hum, like the echo of 1,000 voices speaking as one. She whispered, half to herself, "What are you trying to tell us?" For a moment, she thought she heard an answer, a soft voice, not in words but in feeling, that said, "We remember." Amira stayed like that for a long time, until the first light of dawn turned the horizon gold. When she finally walked back to camp, the soles of her feet were cool with sand, and her heart felt lighter, as if she had touched something endless. That morning, she wrote in her notebook, "The pyramid is alive in its silence. The walls don't echo, they breathe. I think we are meant to listen, not to discover." Now, as you lie here listening, you can almost feel that same hush, the same slow rhythm moving beneath everything, through the stone, through the earth, through your own heartbeat. It's the sound of time at rest. Imagine standing in that quiet chamber, the air thick and still. Your torch flickers. The walls glimmer faintly. You take a slow breath, and the pyramid seems to breathe with you. For a moment, all separation between past and present disappears. You realize that the whispers of the Great Pyramid were never meant only for those who built it. They're meant for anyone who needs to remember how to be still. Outside, the desert night stretches wide. The stars move slowly across the sky, their light falling on the ancient stones like gentle rain. The wind carries faint sounds, a note of music from a faraway village, the flap of a bird's wings, the sigh of shifting dunes. And beneath it all, the pyramid hums softly, the same way it always has, speaking to those who listen. Maybe tonight, if you let yourself grow very quiet, you'll hear it too. Not through your ears, but through the calm it brings to your chest, that slow, deep pulse. That reminder that some things, stone, time, light, love, never truly disappear. They just whisper. So let yourself drift now, slowly, peacefully. The sand is cool beneath you. The stars shimmer above. And somewhere in the distance, the Great Pyramid keeps its gentle watch, its walls murmuring the same old secret. All things that shine began in silence. Breathe in, breathe out. The story is still here, glowing quietly beside you. Good night, traveler. May your rest be deep and kind. And when you wake, may you carry the calm of the whispering walls within you. Dawn came to Giza the way a tide comes to shore. Not suddenly, but with a patient golden swell. The first light touched the tip of the Great Pyramid, then slid downward over its smooth sides, painting each block with warmth. The air was cool, the sand still dark from night, and for a few moments the whole desert seemed to hold its breath. Amira stood outside her tent, her notebook in her hand. She hadn't slept. Her hair was damp with dew, and the hem of her scarf fluttered softly in the morning breeze. All night she had listened to the sound that still echoed in her memory, that low, patient hum from within the pyramid. She couldn't explain it, but she knew she had to go back. When the guards at the site saw her approaching the entrance again, they smiled. They were used to dreamers, used to people who felt drawn to the old stones. They handed her a small lantern and nodded. "Be careful," one said gently. "The air inside can make you feel you've left the world." Amira only smiled. "That's what I'm hoping for." Inside, the light from the lantern spread in soft circles along the walls. The corridors were narrow. The limestone still carried the chill of night. Every step echoed like a heartbeat through the passage. The smell of dust and age was everywhere, clean, dry, eternal. She moved deeper and deeper until she reached the king's chamber again. The space opened around her, vast yet strangely intimate, as if the pyramid had a single quiet room reserved for thought. She set the lantern on the floor and sat beside it. At first, there was only silence. Then, slowly, that same vibration began, faint, steady. She closed her eyes. The sound seemed to rise from the stones themselves, a tone too deep to be music, too gentle to be thunder. It felt like the memory of breathing. Amira let her mind grow still. Her pulse slowed. She thought about Kari, the stoneworker's son she'd read about in an old scroll, the boy who had listened to the pyramid and claimed to hear it speak. Maybe this was what he had heard, not words, but feeling. The language of patience. As she sat, the hum shifted slightly, forming patterns, almost like waves rolling on the sea. Her lantern flickered. The shadows on the wall began to move, slow and fluid, forming shapes that might have been carvings or only tricks of light. But within them she saw images, men lifting blocks, the shimmer of the Nile, a boy pressing his ear against a stone. The hum deepened, and a soft whisper seemed to float through the air, not from any direction, but from everywhere at once. "We remember you." Amira's eyes filled with quiet tears. The air felt alive around her. It wasn't frightening, it was tender, as if the pyramid was reminding her that time wasn't a wall, but a river. All moments, all hands, all breaths still touched one another here. She placed her palm on the cool limestone. "I hear you," she whispered back, and the vibration beneath her skin grew warmer, pulsing once before fading into stillness again. For a long while she simply sat there, breathing with the pyramid. When she finally stood, she felt lighter, as though something in her chest had been dusted clean. Outside, the day had grown bright. The tourists were beginning to arrive, their voices carried by the wind. But the sound didn't disturb her. It blended into the hum she still felt within her bones. She walked down to the edge of the plateau, where the desert met the river valley. The Nile gleamed in the distance like a ribbon of sunlight. She took out her notebook and wrote slowly. The walls whisper because the people who built them sang. The sound never stopped. It only slowed until it became part of the stone. Every echo is a heartbeat waiting to be remembered. When she looked up again, she noticed a child nearby, a child no older than 10, holding his father's hand, looking up at the pyramid with wide eyes. The boy nodded seriously, as children do when they sense something true. He looked back at the towering pyramid, squinted into the sunlight, and smiled. That night, Amira returned once more to the site, not to enter, but to sit outside on the sand. The heat of the day had faded. The desert was blue and silver again. The air smelled faintly of palm resin from a nearby village fire. She leaned back against the base of the pyramid and closed her eyes. Behind her, the ancient blocks were cool, their surfaces worn smooth by wind and time. Above her, the sky stretched infinite, filled with stars. The same stars that Kari had seen, the same that guided every traveler across the ages. And just then, the wind rose slightly, curling through the passages inside the pyramid. It passed through the hidden chambers, through narrow shafts that aligned perfectly with the constellations. As it moved, it made a sound, low, continuous, like the beginning of a song. Amira smiled in the dark. The pyramid was whispering again. Maybe it wasn't speaking to her this time. Maybe it was talking to the stars, as it had always done. Or maybe it was speaking to anyone who was listening. Here, now, even you. If you're quiet enough, you can hear it too. That hum that isn't quite a sound. That stillness that feels alive. It's the voice of everything that endures. Now let your thoughts drift there for a while. You are lying on warm sand. The night is calm. The pyramid towers beside you, its sides catching starlight. The wind moves softly around you, carrying the faint murmur of stone on stone. Your body feels heavy, safe. Each breath slows until it matches the quiet rhythm of the desert. The Great Pyramid stands as it always has, not as a monument to death, but as a cradle for silence, a keeper of peace. And tonight, as you drift toward sleep, that peace is all around you. It hums beneath your pillow. It moves in your heartbeat. It glows behind your closed eyes. Breathe in the desert air. Breathe out the dust of the day. The walls are whispering, not of history, but of rest. Listen, you are safe. You are small, and that is beautiful. You are part of the same stone, the same light, the same quiet eternity. Let those words fade until they become only feeling. Let the pyramid's hum become the rhythm of your breath. Let yourself drift, carried gently on the slow tide of sleep. The Great Pyramid keeps its vigil. The stars turn above it. The night holds you softly. Good night, traveler. When morning came, the air above Giza shimmered again with heat. The tourists returned. The guards called out greetings. But Amira sat apart for a while longer, her back to the pyramid, watching the thin haze rise from the sand. The hum she had felt inside still moved quietly in her chest, like a secret heartbeat. She knew it was time to go. Her work in Egypt was finished, yet she didn't feel as though she was leaving something behind, only carrying it differently. At the train station that afternoon, she placed her notebook on her knees and wrote one last line. Silence travels better than sound. Outside the window, the city blurred into palm groves and then into endless desert. For a moment, as the train curved along the river, she caught a final glimpse of the Great Pyramid in the distance, pale gold against the blue, the same color as the dawn she'd watched from its base. It seemed to glow even through the dust, as if sunlight were being born from within its stones. She rested her head against the glass. The wheels hummed below, matching the low tone she'd heard in the chamber. And she realized the truth that Kari, the boy from long ago, must have known. The whisper was not trapped inside the pyramid. It had always been everywhere, in the wind, in the earth, in the steady rhythm of every living thing. Weeks later, back in her small apartment by the sea, Amira began to notice it again. At night, when the waves rolled against the shore, there it was, the same low hum, softened by water. When she stood in a museum hall surrounded by ancient statues, she heard it hiding beneath the echo of footsteps. When she sat quietly with friends, letting conversation fade, she felt it between their pauses. One evening, she took a walk along the beach just after sunset. The tide was coming in. The sand was cool and damp. She watched the lights of the city flicker across the water. In the distance, a ship's horn sounded, long and low. The note seemed to blend with the rhythm of the waves until it became one sound, deep, kind, familiar. She smiled. The pyramid was still whispering. It had simply changed its shape. She took off her shoes and let the water touch her feet. The sea was gentle, folding around her ankles like silk. She closed her eyes and breathed in the salt air. And in that breath, she heard the message clearly, the same one the stone had carried through the ages. Everything that lasts begins in stillness. Listen, and you will find it again. Now the story drifts forward, into the time you know, this moment, right now, as you listen. Imagine yourself standing where Amira once stood, somewhere quiet, maybe by the sea, maybe in your own room. You don't need a pyramid. You only need the silence. Breathe in, slow and deep. There, do you hear it? A faint hum, the sound behind all sounds. That is the whisper of the walls. It isn't a secret meant for scholars or explorers. It is the oldest lullaby on earth. The voice that says, "Be still, you belong. You are part of the long story of light. Let it fill the room around you." Let it move gently through your heartbeat, through your thoughts, until everything restless begins to quiet. You can almost feel the coolness of stone against your back, the warmth of sunlight drifting across your face. You are in the desert and by the sea at the same time. Time itself is soft and wide. Somewhere far away, the Great Pyramid glows beneath the stars. The wind slides along its sides, and the air hums the same patient note that Amira once heard. That sound travels across sand and ocean, across centuries, until it reaches you. Listen, you are safe. You are small, and therefore infinite. Rest now. The world will keep its watch. Breathe in. Breathe out. Each breath a little slower than the one before. The whisper fades, not because it ends, but because you've become part of it. A quiet frequency of calm and light. The desert night holds you, the same way it holds the pyramid, steady and eternal. Sleep now, traveler. Let the hum carry you deeper, into a peace older than words, older than stone. The walls still whisper, they always will. And when you wake, you'll hear them again. In the wind, in the water, in the spaces between heartbeats. Good night. May the stillness of the Great Pyramid travel with you wherever you rest. May its ancient calm live gently in your own breath. And may the whispering walls keep you safe until the morning comes. The night after Amira's walk, Rain moved softly across the coast. She left her window open. The air smelled of wet stone and salt. Somewhere far away, thunder rolled low and kind. She lay in bed listening. The sound of the rain on the roof was the same pulse she had heard inside the pyramid. Softer now, but steady, as if the world itself was breathing. She didn't try to sleep right away. Instead, she let her thoughts wander back to Giza. The slow wind that tasted of dust, the glimmer of lanterns in the excavation tents, the way the first rays of dawn had caught the edges of the pyramid and turned it to gold. She remembered pressing her hand to the wall and feeling warmth rise through the stone. That warmth was here now, under her ribs, quiet and real. Outside her window, a street lamp flickered. For a heartbeat, its light trembled exactly the way her lantern had trembled in the dark chamber, and she realized something simple and beautiful. Light is never lost. It only changes its lamp. The whisper was with her, in the hush between raindrops, in the small pauses of her own breathing. It said nothing new, only repeated what it had always said. Be still. Remember that you are made of time and light. Everything you need is already inside, the quiet. She smiled, eyes closed, and finally drifted into sleep. Somewhere, beyond dream and waking, she found herself walking again through corridors of pale limestone. The torchlight in her hand burned blue this time, not yellow. The air was cool and clean. The hum of the pyramid filled the space, no longer deep and distant, but soft and near, like a heart against her ear. When she reached the central chamber, she saw the same boy who had once listened there centuries ago, Kari. He was small, barefoot, smiling. He looked at her and said, in a voice that was both a child's and the wind's, "You heard us, and now you are one of us. When people listen for calm, they will hear your echo too." He lifted his hand, and the lantern flame floated upward, joining the patterns of light that swirled above the stone walls. They weren't hieroglyphs now, but tiny shining threads, the thoughts and breaths of everyone who had ever been still enough to hear. Amira reached out, touched one, and felt the world expand. The Nile, the desert, the stars, the endless rhythm of water and sand and sleep. It was too large for words, so she let it flow through her. Then the dream faded into darkness that wasn't empty at all, but full, rich, humming. When morning came, she woke slowly, the way dawn seeps into a room. The rain had stopped. The sky outside was the pale color of unpolished marble. She lay there, still half between worlds, and whispered a quiet thank you to the silence. From then on, Amira listened differently. In the rumble of trains, in the hush of libraries, in the space before a friend spoke, she could always find the faint vibration that belonged to the Great Pyramid. Whenever life grew loud, she would close her eyes and let the hum steady her again. Can you hear the walls? They always replied the same way. Yes, it's peaceful. Now the story returns to you. You followed Amira across deserts and oceans. You've walked through the chambers of stone and stood beneath stars that never burned out. All that's left is the quiet. Lie back. Let your shoulders sink deeper into the bed. Feel the air move softly across your face. The whisper lives here too. If you listen closely, beneath the sounds of the world, the hum of electricity, the faint pulse in your ear, you will hear it. Not from outside, but from within. You are part of the same light that shaped the stones. You are ancient and new at once. Rest. The world is still turning. The silence is keeping watch. Breathe in slowly and out even slower. The night stretches wide. Somewhere far away, wind glides over the desert, curling through hidden shafts of the Great Pyramid, carrying the old music across the sand. It will circle the earth again and again, and one day it will reach you in another form, a breeze, a note, a dream. But for now, let it simply be the lullaby that holds you. Sleep comes easily now. The hum softens until it becomes your heartbeat. The walls around you whisper the same words that echo through the ages. All things that shine begin in silence. Good night, traveler. Rest in that silence. And when you wake, may you hear the world a little more gently. The ancient murmur still moving through every quiet place. The whispering walls of the Great Pyramid living softly inside you.